Hey folks, this is Manuel from Steadybit. In this video, we will cover how you can automate your experience with Steadybit. For that, we have the API available, which allows you to do the same stuff as you can do via user interface in an automated fashion. Also, we have a command line interface available that you can easily integrate in your CI/CD pipelines to trigger experiments automatically, or alternatively use our GitHub Action to run experiments directly from GitHub Actions. In this video, we will cover all three and show you how you can set it up. Now, looking at the Steadybit docs, we have the API section over here, which covers the authentication using the access token, but also covers the interactive API documentation, so a Swagger UI that is automatically generated based on the OpenAPI spec of the platform's API. And now browsing through the different endpoints, you can see that we have similar capabilities as in the platform's UI. You can use the API to list, create, update, or delete environments. You can also create, list, update, or delete experiment designs, as well as trigger experiment runs. Also, you can configure schedules, use experiment templates, and so on and so on. Important to note is that we're differentiating between team-related API endpoints, like update an experiment within a team or run an experiment that is belonging to a team as well, and administrator endpoints, like creating a new environment, inviting a new user, editing a team. And for that, you need different kind of tokens. Let's jump into the Steadybit platform to see how you can set it up. So in here, you simply go to the settings of Steadybit, jumping over into the API access tokens. And now you can easily create a new API access token from here. As mentioned before, we have different kind of types. We have the team access token, which allows to perform actions belonging to a team, like creating or running an experiment. And we have the admin token, which is everything belonging into the settings section to configure Steadybit in an automated way. Now in this video, we will focus on the team-related actions, and we want to simply run an experiment that is belonging to the GitHub team. Now, this is the only time when we're actually showing the access token, so we need to make sure that we're not losing it. And also we show a small snippet how you can use the API with the newly created token. Now, coming back to our example, we have an experiment design over here, which is belonging to the GitHub team. And now we want to use the API to run this specific experiment. For that, we can go to the Swagger and check out available API endpoints. And you can see that we have an API to execute an experiment. And now we can use a curl command to trigger this API endpoint. The actual command is also listed in our docs as an example. So we can simply copy this one, switch over into the terminal and paste it over here. And now we said we want to execute the experiment GitHub 17. And also we need to specify the newly added token in here. That's it. We can execute the API directly. And now looking at our experiment, we can see that it's currently being executed. We can directly jump into the experiment run from here and also watch what's happening, or again, use the API endpoints to check for the current state of the experiment run. Now, an easier way to integrate experiment runs, for instance, into your CI/CD pipeline is our command line interface. That's a simple NPM package that you can install, for instance, directly in your CI/CD pipeline. For now, I will just show you this on my local machine by copy and pasting the installation instruction. Here we go. I've installed it globally, so I can just access the Steadybit help in order to see all the available options. And you can see that the command line interface offers you to check advice and also check and run experiments. But first of all, we need to configure the API token, which we have generated before. And for that, we can jump into the configuration and also configure a new profile by using the add option. You can either add a new profile interactively or using the specific options of the config profile add to do it, for instance, in a CI/CD pipeline when there is no interaction possible. For now, we will choose the interactive approach. And the first thing it asked me is to specify a profile name. For us, it's the Steadybit GitHub Action. And next, the base URL of the Steadybit server. If you're using the SaaS environment, it's already the pre-configured one. If you're using Steadybit in an on-prem version, you need to specify the right URL of the platform. And then it asks you to provide the API access token. And here we go. Everything is correctly configured. Now I can simply run my experiment again by using the CLI and specify the experiment key in here. Yes, I'm sure to run it. And here we go, the experiment is running, as I can also see in the Steadybit platform UI. Now we have also an example ready for you that you can simply use whenever you're using GitHub Actions and copy and paste it to your environment. It uses also the command line interface and specifies an experiment that should be executed, just like we did in our terminal. But also you can direct it to an experiment that is stored as JSON or YAML representation in a folder, and then simply update all the experiment and run all of them. Now, depending on the result of the actual experiment, the pipeline step will either succeed or fail, and this way you can block and release whenever you have introduced a new reliability issue. And now looking at the configuration of this pipeline, it does the same as we have done manually before, installing the Steadybit command line interface as an npm package, adding a new profile by using a pre-configured access token, and then execute the experiment either using the experiment key or referencing a folder with YAML or JSON-based experiments. Last but not least, if you're using GitHub Actions, we also have a GitHub Action available that allows you to simply run an experiment. That's something we're also using internally to validate our reliability. Now, that was everything on integrating Steadybit into your CI/CD pipeline to automate experiment runs, experiment creation, but also setup of Steadybit. To summarize, you have the option to use the API directly from your CI/CD pipeline or wherever it is a great fit for you. You can also use the command line interface to make it simpler to run an experiment. Or if you're using a GitHub Action pipeline, you can also use the GitHub Action Run Experiment. Thanks for watching and take care.